Hello everyone and welcome back to our advanced level design class. For the second week, we'll be talking about the development of a level, basically your first fully functional level using Unreal Development Kit. And before we start, I just wanted to ask you to set up your folder for the contents of the class within your UDK installation folder, so that the materials and the packages and things that we will create, we can put them in there, and then your Unreal Development Kit will be able to reference them. So what you should do is to click on open the folder and then go to C and UDK, the installation of your UDK, and then click on UDK game. Under the content, then go to the content of your maps, and under the maps folder, create a folder called GMNG 4316 SP12, that stands for Spring 2012, and then inside Spring 2012, create a folder and call it Unit02 for this class, and then go ahead and copy the folder or the content of the folder of custom packages from the DVD that comes with your first chapter of the book. Chapter 3, it's called Chapter 3 Level Assets.upk, that's Unreal package. Copy that and paste it into Unit02 and call it U02.upk. And this way, all the assets that we will use for this class, for this unit, are already within that content package, and then we can use that to apply materials, particles, and everything to our game. Next step is to open up and create or essentially create open Unreal Development Kit editor or UDK editor. So we'll wait a little bit until it loads up. And so as you see here, we'll have our test map that UDK generates as a template. Okay, this week I want you to go ahead and create a fully functional level, which will have a whole bunch of geometry. We use static meshes in this map. We apply materials or objects. We use lighting in this map, and all the advanced things that Unreal enables you to do in developing your game levels. And then you'll submit your map as a mini assignment, and then starting next week we'll start breaking down each of the components, like the geometry, material design, Kismet, Matinee, and particle effects and things of that nature. Alright, so that now we started the package and we copied the package in the Unreal folder, so we could essentially go ahead and use the materials and the assets from the package. Let's start our level. Now, I'm going to show you how to do things that are within the tutorials from Chapter 3 of Mastering Unreal, Volume 1. And you can follow these, and if you have any questions when you're or the textbook, and if you have any questions following these materials from the textbook, you can watch the relevant information that are within here, within this game level that I'm designing. So first thing is to create an empty level. So if you click on the empty icon or create new file, then you would see that there are map templates that Unreal or UDK lets you pick from. I want you to click on the blank map, and you will see a blank map here. So this is an empty map. There's nothing inside. As you see here, the templates the template that I had before, it had a skybox and a little terrain setup and so forth, but I want you to start with an empty map. So here we have the empty map, And what we need to do with the UDK, the latest release, is when you're creating geometry that is an indoors geometry, like inside of a room, you'd usually deal with and work with subtractive geometry. Basically, you think of your geometry as a big chunk of solid volume, and then you carve out of it. And Unreal Development Kit, at least the latest editions, they do not have your subtractive geometry set up initially. So what you need to do is to create a big additive space here, or constructive solid geometry, and then carve out of it. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to add a big cube to this empty level. So if you look at the left hand side, you'll see all the brushes that you have. So right click on the cube brush and then add like a 20,000 by 20,000 by 20,000 cube, and click on build and close. And when you do that, you'll see that your volume becomes huge, or the brush, a huge cube, and then you click on add geometry, or CGS add, and this way, if you click once, one additive geometry will be added to your cube, to your environment. Make sure that your perspective viewport is on unlit, and if your view is for divided viewport, split viewports, you can click on the maximize viewport on the right hand side of your perspective viewport, and your viewport becomes maximized. Then right click on the cube brush one more time, and the textbook wanted you to create a subtractive room with the sizes of 1024, 1024, and 512 on X, Y, and Z respectively. So you build your new brush. If you notice here, you have a smaller brush. This red cube wire frame here shows you where your brush is. If you click on subtract CGS from the big chunk that you created, and empty subtractive geometry will be added. You can essentially start with subtractive geometry again, but I'm not quite sure when you build your level how it works out. But this is basically your first room that you can create. So you can move around in this room by holding the left mouse button and then moving around. Holding the right mouse button lets you rotate around, and the two mouse buttons, if you hold them and move your mouse up and down, you can go along the Z direction, or the Z axis. Okay, so this is our first room, and we did that with the last week's class. And so if you click on wireframe, brush wireframe, you see that your subtractive geometry is actually your additive geometry is the blue wireframe there, and your subtractive geometry is the red one down here. And you can click on the unlit mode, and this shows you how your geometry looks like without calculating the lights. If you click on lit mode, it calculates the lights and show you how your geometry looks like under the lights, but you don't have any lights here, so you won't see anything. You can have the details of the lightings, you can have only lighting, you can have light complexity and all that other lighting views that we don't have any here, so we won't see any differences. So we want to save this game and or this level and see how it works. You can go ahead and click on File and then click on Save As, and then under the Maps on UDK Content, GMNG 4316-SP12 that we created, and within the Unit02 folder, you can just save this map as ch3-start.udk. It's for chapter 3. So here's how your map, essentially chapter 3 map that we have so far, looks like. And if you right click somewhere, you can play the level from here. You see here it says the paths need to be rebuilt, and you don't have any lighting, so you won't see anything. So cancel this light. And you can build your geometry by clicking on build geometry from visible levels, and you can build the lightings. And make sure that when you're building lightings from the build lighting option, uncheck use light mask, because that's when you have ambient lights and directional lights and things like that, and you want to create essentially a realistic looking level with all the reflections, refractions, and all that kind of stuff. We don't have that here, and it drastically decreases the amount of processing that needs to be done on building your level lighting conditions. So we uncheck light mask, and then we build the lightings. And as you see, the lighting is built really quickly. Of course, we didn't have any lights here, and if you still play your level, you'd see that nothing happens because you don't have any lights in here. Okay, now before we go ahead and start on adding more stuff to the level, let's add another room and a connection or a doorway between the two rooms. So I want you to just go ahead and zoom out of the orthographic viewports here and click on your brush, and then you can move your brush out of the way, basically. And so this red builder brush is the actual brush that we create geometry with. But our actual geometry here, because it's subtractive, is just a green, or rather a brown wireframe that shows up on your front viewport, your side viewport, and your top viewport. Okay, so here's my geometry. Now I want to add another room, a cylindrical kind of room. So what I can do is I click on the cylinder brush, and then I'll just create the sizes for the cylinder brush. So I can have the z-axis to be 512, and for the outer, or actually the z-axis, I'll make it 1024, and I'll make the outer radius for my cylindrical room to be 512, and the inner radius to be essentially 384. So I use the defaults. If you build your brush, here is how my brush looks like now. Okay, so I want to line up my two rooms. So you go to the top viewport, and in the top viewport I'll just line up my, let's just make sure that we have 16 units steps. Make this 8 and move it up. Make it 16 units and move it one step up. So here the two rooms are 16 units apart along the x-axis, and then I minimize this viewport, and then I want to make the two rooms kind of aligned along the z-axis as well. Change your grad grade sizes, and then go to the top viewport. Okay. Now my brush is essentially aligned with my square room, and I can click on CGS subtract to create another subtractive geometry. So I did that, and now you see that under the perspective viewport, now I have the two rooms essentially created, just as you see here. Okay, I'm rotating around. Now let's move about this level. Okay, so now I have the two rooms, and you can play in either one of the two rooms. Now next is to create a little doorway in the middle here. So next I'll go to the right click on the cube brush, and then create a cube that has 32 units along the x-axis, 256 units along the y-axis, and 256 units along the z-axis. Build your brush, and then in one of the viewports, put your newly built brush a little bit at your in the middle of the two rooms, and then go ahead and double check that it's aligned in all the brushes, which is, and then go ahead and click one more time on CGS subtract, and this way, if you've noticed here now, I'll take the brush away, out of the way, and so now you see that you have created the connection between the two rooms. Let's just go along here. As you see, the two rooms are now created here, and you have a little room, a little doorway, or a little gap between the two rooms. Okay, so here is our geometry. We created the geometry, and I'm going to save everything here. And by the way, if you see that your generic browser is maximized or is essentially in a way, you can just simply go ahead and minimize it. Okay. Now, next is to add some lighting to this level and try it out and play and see how it looks like in the player. So adding lighting is fairly simple. Just hold down the L key and then left click somewhere in your viewport. Left click on the side viewport, and so the light is added. Okay, now you can move around and put the light just the way that you want it. Just place it inside the middle of the first room. Actually, let's put it a little towards the top, and then you can hold down the Alt key and move your light along one of the axes, as you see I did here, and that basically creates a duplicate of your light. And then I move the second light out, and so here's how my lighting condition looks like in this level. So when you add lights or other objects to your game, or to your level, which are called actors in Unreal, you can change their properties. And the properties of the light, you can right click on them and go to point light property, or when you select the light, you can click on F4 and the property window opens up. So I press on one of the lightings, and when the property opens up, click on the light, click on light component, and click on point light component. And then you'll see that you have radius for your light, you have fall off, and then you have the translation or information for your light. And then you can make changes to the light mass. You can make changes to the light component that talks about the brightness of your light, the color of the light, and other properties that we will talk about, and so forth. So what I want to do is I want to change the color of the light in the square room, and the color and the radius of the light in the cylindrical room. So again, I'll show you how to get to the properties of your lights. So click on the light in the square room, positioned in the middle of the room, and then press F4, click on light component, and then click on point light component and light component to open those categories up. And change the radius of, or actually leave the radius of the point light component in the light in the square room. Click on the area, the white area in front of the light color, and then change the color to a kind of orangish color, and then press OK, and then close this window. If you go to your perspective viewport, you'll see that the light in the square room changed to a kind of orangish color. Now next, click on the light in your cylinder room. Change the radius of this light. Press F4. Change the radius of this light to 2048, and then change the color to a dark to a light bluish color. And when you're satisfied with that, here's how the lights would look like. Okay, now that you have your game lights set up, or essentially your point lights set up, let's play your level. So right click somewhere in the cylindrical room and click on play from here, and of course you won't be able to see anything because you have not built your lightings yet. And if you want to see how your geometry looks like in the game, on the perspective viewport, click on lit, and under the lit you'll see how your lightings look like here. If you click on unlit, although you have lights, it doesn't render any lights, and so you just see how your just the geometry of your level and how it looks like. So to build your lightings, you can go to build and then click on lighting. The window opens up, or alternatively on the toolbar you'll see a little light bulb, and that is where you can build your lighting. So click on build lighting, and then build BSP, static meshes, current level, generate LOD textures, and then uncheck again the light mask, and then build your lighting. So here's how your lighting is built and how your level actually would look like. Right click in the cylindrical room, and now you can see that your level is built, right? And so you can play your level. Okay, sounds great. Now as you see here, you don't have a player, and because you saved your game basically with no predetermined game setup, you will not be able to see your essentially a player actor here in your level. To do so, you need to save your level in basically as a deathmatch game, so that way Unreal automatically creates a player for you. So basically uses a default player. So go ahead and save your file as, just as the prefix for your game, type in dm dash and then leave the rest of the name of the level. And when you run, you build your game, and then you run your level, your game would set up it as a deathmatch, and so you'll see your player. And the player starts with the default weapon. You'll have the health, the ammo, and all that kind of things. And of course, you can press tab and type in the cheat behind view, and it shows you a third-person view of the player. Okay, So we'll keep this level and we start adding stuff to this level.